Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Weston Sistrunk, and I serve as the College Panhellenic Council President here at the University of Mississippi. I would like to welcome you to tonight's program. The beauty of the Ole Miss family is just how much we care for one another. Whether you're a member of a student organization, the Associated Student Body, athletic team, or Greek life, we are all connected by the fact that we are a family. Families stand up for one another and work to make the campus a better place, which is why hazing and other risky behaviors have no place within the Ole Miss family. Students and student organizations at the University of Mississippi will exercise integrity and respect for the dignity of each person by refraining from the act of hazing in any form. Hazing is any action taken or situation created, regardless of the person's willingness to participate, that causes embarrassment, harassment, ridicule, or risk emotional and/or physical harm to the members of a group or team. The conversation we will have tonight is one that will hopefully empower you to speak up if you see something that isn't right and hold our peers accountable to upholding our creed. Because no matter where you're from, which residence hall you live in, what position you hold in your chapter or organization, family matters. I would now like to introduce Brandon Hill, who will come to introduce our evening's guests.
Thank you, Ann Weston. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Hill, and I serve as the National Panhellenic President. This evening, we are joined by three very brave individuals, Mr. and Mrs. Gruver and Mrs. Evelyn Piazza. Steve and Rayanne Gruver are the parents of the late Max Gruver. Max was an LSU student and a new member of Phi Delta Theta. 29 days after moving on campus, Max passed away from dangerously high blood alcohol levels due to hazing within his fraternity. The Max Gruver Foundation was established in the aftermath of this event. This foundation is a nonprofit organization working to end hazing on college campuses. In the United States, there has been at least one hazing death each year since 1961. The hazing has to stop. It is time for college campuses, Greek organizations, their members, and the United States government to end hazing and to save lives. The Max Gruver Foundation and the funds it raises will be directed towards ensuring that hazing has no place on college campuses. Evelyn Piazza is the mother of the late Tim Piazza. Tim was a Penn State student and Beta Theta Pi new member. Tim passed away from high blood alcohol levels and numerous traumatic injuries from falling downstairs at his fraternity. His family and friends have established the Timothy J. Piazza Memorial Foundation to raise money to be used to help those who are in need of prosthetic devices, particularly children, and to provide scholarships to Hunterdon Central Regional High School students who embody many of the interests and attributes that define Tim's life. We are so fortunate to have these two families with us tonight, and we are excited and look forward to them sharing their message with our community. So at this time, I would like to welcome Mr. and Mrs. Gruver and Mrs. Piazza to the stage.
Good evening. We would like to thank you all for coming out this evening and sharing your time with us. During our time this evening, we intend to increase your awareness about hazing and the tragic consequences that can result. You'll learn what hazing looks like, how it happens, and how you can keep yourself and your friends safe. Hazing is not something that should be an expected part of your college experience or the college experience of any of your friends. This presentation is in honor and loving memory of our two sons, Tim Piazza and Max Gruver, who both died in 2017 due to hazing in their fraternities.
Good luck at your first semester of college.
We hope that you have a great first year at school.
Have a good time and learn a lot about yourself.
Make new friends and have fun.
Make us proud and study hard.
Make good decisions and be safe.
Love, Mom and Dad.
This is an ABC News special report.
Tonight, a major new development in the alleged hazing death of Penn State student Timothy Piazza.
We have new evidence.
Surveillance video that authorities say was once destroyed, now recovered by the FBI.
This is the video that they clearly did not want seen.
Guess what, guys? Now we know.
Prosecutors say the footage from the basement of the Beta Theta Pi house shows fraternity brothers giving the 19-year-old pledge at least 18 drinks of beer, wine, and vodka, all in just an hour and 22 minutes.
10 young men under arrest in the suspected hazing death of a college student in Louisiana. The LSU freshman died after attending a fraternity pledge event called Bible Study. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
19-year-old Max Gruver died after what they called a Bible study September 13th. Pledges were asked questions about the fraternity, and police say that Naukin and two others forced them to drink 190 proof alcohol when they got the answers wrong. A coroner's report tonight says that Gruver's blood alcohol level was .495, 6 times the legal driving limit. Police say he was passed out on a couch for at least 9 hours, that they checked on him during the night.
From the fraternity death, a grand jury has found enough evidence to support criminal charges in the death of Florida State University pledge Andrew Coffey, who died last month after an alcohol-soaked frat party. It is one of 4 frat-related deaths this year. Edith Oakham here with the story. Good morning, Edith.
Good morning, George. We now know Andrew Coffey died from a lethal amount of alcohol that he allegedly drank at a frat party. In the search for answers, a grand jury interviewing witnesses this morning, that grand jury encouraging authorities to pursue criminal charges, saying that many of the brothers seemed rehearsed and were more concerned about getting in trouble than they were about trying to save Coffey's life.
20-year-old Andrew Coffey, a Pi Kappa Phi pledge at Florida State University, was found dead inside this house after an off-campus frat party this past November. His blood alcohol, nearly 7 times the legal limit to drive. Court documents now revealing the only people at the party, 2 strippers, the Pi Kappa pledges, and their new big brothers. According to those at the party, Coffey passed out on a couch after drinking large amounts of liquor straight from the bottle. They claim as they played pool, Coffey fell asleep, snoring loudly. But the next morning, when a pledge went to wake Coffey, he didn't have a pulse. Phone records show the pledge called and texted 5 frat members prior to calling 911.
Unfortunately, when medical emergency personnel got here along with TPD, they determined the person to be deceased.
This morning, officials are investigating the death of a Texas State University student, saying alcohol may have played a role.
Some initial interviews of the persons on scene indicated they had been drinking that evening or the evening prior.
20-year-old Matthew Ellis, a Phi Kappa Psi pledge, was found dead Monday morning at an off-campus apartment after attending a fraternity event. Officials say if he was hazed, arrests could be made.
Charges could range from furnishing alcohol to a minor, on the high end of possibly manslaughter.
The university shutting down all Greek life at the school. The Texas State president releasing a statement saying it is imperative that our entire university community develop a culture that places the highest priority on the safety of its students, faculty, and staff.
Max. Let me tell you a little bit about my Max. He was a gentle giant, a sweet soul. He had a big smile and an even bigger hug. And he was always somebody who took care of the people around him. He was easygoing and laid back. He laughed with his whole body, and he loved every day of his life. Max was born and raised in Roswell, Georgia. He's the older brother to Alex, who's 17, and Lily Kate, who's 13. He went to Blessed Trinity Catholic High School. He dated a girl named Blakely all 4 years. He loved sports and journalism and rap music. some of his favorite artists being J. Cole, Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and my personal favorite, Schoolboy Q. He wrote sports articles for Def Pen Radio. He wrote over 360 articles in 3 years. He could talk your ear off about any sport and the statistics that went with it. He was a Little League coach, and he coached his sister's basketball team. He chose LSU because he liked the journalism program, and he knew he had a lot of possibilities ahead of him. He had a bright future, one he was ready to go after. He pledged a fraternity to meet people, to get involved at a really big school, and he was also interested in a fraternity where he could take on a leadership role. He was even up for pledge class president. Max was ready to start the next chapter of his life, but the next chapter of his life was very short-lived. We dropped Max off on August 15th of 2017. This picture is the last picture I have of my son and I. It is a moment I will never forget. It is a moment of that many of you probably just had with your mom and dad when they dropped you off at school. It's the last time I felt his arms around me, giving me his enormous hug. It is the last time I saw that enormous smile. It is the last time I was able to look into his eyes and tell him that I loved him, that I would miss him, and that I was proud of him. I told him, "This is your time. Go shine your light on the world." 29 days later, my son would be dead because of alcohol hazing in his fraternity house. Based on police reports, pledges were summoned to the fraternity house for Bible study. They arrived at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Their phones were taken from them. Some brothers descended down the stairs to where the pledges were playing pool, and one said, "Are you ready for Bible study? Y'all better do well, because I'm already effed up." The pledges were then placed in a single file line and marched up the stairs as they were doused in hot sauce and mustard. They were placed in a dark hallway with a flashing strobe light and music blaring, clearly intended to distract and disorient the participants. At one point, the pledges were told to do wall sits while standing on the fraternity history book, while brothers walked or ran across their legs. At another point, one pledge was struck in the eye with a bottle, causing a severe black eye and a laceration. But the big part of the night was Bible study. Pledges were placed with their noses and their toes up against the wall, and that's when the questions began. Answer a question wrong about the fraternity or mess up on the Greek alphabet, and you have to take a pull off of a liquor bottle. The liquor of choice for this Bible study was diesel, and a pull is taking a swig off the bottle until you are told to stop, with brothers screaming at you to drink, pledge, drink. As I think many of you know, diesel is not just alcohol. It is what is called a high-potency alcohol, an alcoholic beverage that is 2.5 times stronger than an alcoholic beverage that is more familiar to the average person, like vodka or whiskey. This particular alcohol is 190 proof alcohol, grain alcohol. The alcohol's own website includes this warning, and I quote, "Diesel 190 proof is extremely potent and should not be drunk straight, but integrated with drinks in small amounts." According to witnesses, this pledge activity lasted less than 2 hours, and Max consumed 10 to 12 pulls off those bottles, significantly more than other pledges, because according to police reports, he got answers wrong, and he had been late to some pledge events, and certain fraternity members had singled him out. Yes, they singled him out. The actions taken by these hazers resulted in my son's death. Max was taken back downstairs and left to sleep it off on a couch, and even with obvious signs of distress, no one called 911 to render Max help during the night, something which possibly could have saved his life. Brothers observed him at different points of the night with labored breathing, cold, clammy skin, his lips and his fingers turning blue, and a weak pulse. Some even saying they were checking his pulse numerous times throughout the night. If you are checking a person's pulse or checking a person's breathing, you should be calling 911. Clearly, something is seriously going wrong. My son died at some point the morning of September 14th. Max's blood alcohol level was an alarming .495. I say alarming because this is 6 times the legal limit at which a person is considered legally impaired, a DUI. Even more alarming is that a blood alcohol concentration level of a .31 is considered life-threatening. Can you really call this a brotherhood, subjecting pledges to life-threatening hazing rituals like this? Tragically, our son died as a result of this alcohol hazing Bible study. He was left to sleep it off in the fraternity house with his brothers right there, and the outcome was fatal. The coroner cited the cause of death as acute alcohol intoxication with aspiration. Max choked to death on his own vomit. 10 fraternity members have been arrested on criminal charges ranging from hazing to negligent homicide, which is a felony. 4 were indicted by the grand jury, including the individual who's facing the most serious charge of negligent homicide. 2 have pleaded no contest, which is the same as a guilty plea in Louisiana, and they will be sentenced once the negligent homicide trial is over. The individual who is charged with negligent homicide will face trial next summer. Their mugshots are all over the news. We have all had to hire attorneys. We have to travel back and forth to Baton Rouge for hearings and court dates. But most of all, our family has to live every day without our oldest son, a brother, a grandson, a cousin, a best friend. This is not the college experience that we, or any of you, or your brothers or your sisters or your organizations are looking for.
Tim. Tim was an amazing person with an incredible sense of humor. He liked being the protector of his friends. He was shy until he got to know you, and then he was larger than life. He was a great son, brother, friend, and boyfriend. He was a pretty good athlete who thought nothing of using a football move on the basketball court. He was a good student who was good at math and science, so he decided to major in mechanical engineering and planned on designing prosthetics to help children and soldiers. And he just wanted to help people and was really looking forward to being a part of the dance marathon at Penn State. This is our last family picture taken together on January 2nd, 2017 at the Rose Bowl. Tim hardly ever asked for anything, so when he asked to go to the Rose Bowl, we said yes. We thought we'd make a trip of it. Tim had conditions though. He had to be home on New Year's Eve to be with his girlfriend, and he had to come home the day after the Rose Bowl so he could finish out his winter internship because he didn't want to let them down. That was the kind of person that he was. So it was an expensive, not even 3 days for us to fly to Pasadena from New Jersey, buy tickets to the Rose Bowl, hotel reservations, and then fly home. But we are so glad we did it because it was the last family vacation we ever had together. These are pictures of Tim with his high school sweetheart, Caitlin. He was considered part of their family. They were planning on him coming with them on vacation during the summer. Tim hated New York City, but when Caitlin's younger sister asked him to come to the American Girl Doll Museum, he went. He even posed with the dolls. He did whatever she wanted. He was her Tim. Caitlin's dad spoke at Tim's wake, where he said he couldn't have designed a better boyfriend for his daughter. He completely trusted Tim and felt safe knowing that she was in his care, which was huge for a cop and a dad of a girl. And these are pictures of Tim with his friends and his brother. He was always trying to make everyone laugh, whether it was his version of a pterodactyl call, a foreign accent, a sound, or an off-key song, like when he tried to sing opera, or some inane phrase that he picked up from a commercial, which he'd repeat over and over again until he got a laugh. My favorite picture is the one to the right. That to me is pure contentment. They were truly perfect for each other. So I'm not going to go into detail about how Tim was hazed. I wanted you to see what happened afterwards through our eyes. So who here has a brother or sister close in age to you? Close enough to be in college at the same time as you? If not, consider your best friend and consider that you are both going to the same college. Now, close your eyes and imagine that your brother is going to pledge a fraternity, and it started last night. You get a call from your brother's roommate saying he didn't come home last night, and that's not like him. He always comes home. You decide something's wrong, so you call the hospital to see if he's there. They say, yes, there's been an accident. You need to come right away. You rush to the hospital and see your brother on life support, neck brace, bruises and blood on his body and head. The doctor tells you it's bad, that he has a subdural hematoma, which is bleeding in his brain. His spleen is ruptured. He has a punctured lung, and he needs a blood transfusion because, as it turns out, 80% of his body's blood is in his abdomen. You have to call your mom to tell her that the doctor's going to call, but that your parents need to come now. You tell her what little information you know, that it was the first night of pledging, and that he fell down the stairs. They need to medevac him to a trauma hospital 1.5 hours away for neurosurgery immediately. You talk to him, even though he's unconscious. You tell him to hang in there, that you are proud of him, and that you love him. A tear rolls down his cheek, and you think he heard you. And then they take him away. Now, picture your mom and dad getting that phone call, as well as the call from the ER doctor. The doctor says he's a very sick boy, but they don't understand what he's hinting at, that their son is dying. It doesn't click. Both mom and dad have to drive 45 excruciating minutes home from work to get to home to pack bags, and then drive over 2 hours to get to the hospital where he will be having surgery. Your dad says, this better not have anything to do with that fraternity. And your mom tells him it was the first night of pledging. They call the police to find out what happened. There's not a lot of information, but they say he fell down the steps after drinking. Your mom calls student affairs to say that he won't be in class because he's having emergency neurosurgery and abdominal surgery. She gets a call from the advisor of the fraternity, who doesn't have much to say, except the national fraternity will be flying in the next morning to meet them at the hospital. They get to the hospital and feel sick when they see the helicopter still outside. They rush in and have to wait in the surgical waiting room. Finally, someone comes to take them to the surgical ICU to meet with the surgeon. It turns out this man is a chaplain, but it doesn't click why a chaplain was sent to get them. In a small room, a surgeon and a nurse tell them that their son's brain injury is non-recoverable. They feel the world stop. Another surgeon comes in and says, once the skull was removed to release the pressure on the brain kept swelling outside of the skull, and that this is considered brain death. They try to comprehend what's happening. He's brain dead? How can this be? He's still on life support. Is there any hope for recovery? No. They have tests to prove brain death, but because of his other injuries, they can't be done, and you have to take their word for it. You get a ride with your roommate to the hospital and find out how bad it is from your parents. You try to be the strong one. His girlfriend comes with her dad. They have to tell her that the boy she loves is brain dead. You all cry together. Then you finally get to see him. The only skin showing is his shoulders. He's covered with blankets to keep him warm, but his body won't warm up. His head is covered with a white gauze stocking cap to cover the bandages from having his skull removed to release the pressure on his brain from the bleeding. And he's got bruises and swelling on his face. He's on a ventilator. There are IVs everywhere and machines monitoring oxygen level and body temperature. They need to put chest tubes in his lungs because his oxygen level's dropping. They think he aspirated on vomit. The doctors and nurses tell you that they are doing everything they can, but that it's just a matter of time. He's going to go into cardiac arrest. The organ donor person is talking to you about donating his kidneys, the only organs not damaged. Now, you all have to decide whether to resuscitate him when he goes into cardiac arrest, potentially breaking ribs in his already battered body, only to know that he will go into cardiac arrest again. Or do you let him go into cardiac arrest and die so they can take him into an operating room to harvest his organs? Or do you turn the machines off in an operating room and let him go so they can harvest his organs immediately? You, your parents, his girlfriend and her dad decide to turn the machines off, but he codes before you can tell the doctors, and they resuscitate him as you watch from the hallway. A nurse pulls your mom forward and tells her to kiss her baby goodbye. He goes into cardiac arrest again, and you all let him go. You and the 10 medical personnel in the room who look at you with sad eyes. And there it is. He's dead. It's 1:23 a.m. A day and a half ago, he was alive and happy. How did this happen? How did we get here? What happened at that fraternity house? This doesn't make sense. He was a good kid. He wasn't a risk taker. He wasn't a drinker. He was a good student. He had a longtime girlfriend who he was planning a future with. He had great friends and roommates. He had plans for his future at school and for his career. What happened? He was an amazing person who got hazed and then ignored, tortured, and left to die because the fraternity did not want to get in trouble. Think about this being your loss. Think about this being your pain. Think about having a funeral, having your brother cremated, and having to watch your mom put his urn in a niche at a mausoleum. Think about you losing your best friend, your only sibling. Why? Because he was hazed. Everyone's lives are forever altered, and there will always be this hole in your heart because he was hazed, got seriously hurt, and no one was willing to do the right thing and call for help because they didn't want to get in trouble.
Let's begin with the definition of hazing. What is it exactly? HazingPrevention.org defines hazing as any action taken or situation created intentionally that causes embarrassment, harassment, or ridicule, and risks emotional and/or physical harm to members of a group or a team, whether new or not, regardless of the person's willingness to participate. Hazing risks emotional and/or physical harm. No student should be subjected to life-threatening activities in order to join any organization. And your willingness to participate does not matter. It is still hazing. Hazing is a crime with very tragic consequences. Ask yourself these questions if you think hazing is occurring to you or one of your friends? Is this causing emotional or physical distress to others or stress to myself or others? Does participating in this activity go against my values or the values of my organization? Am I doing anything illegal? Am I being asked to keep these activities a secret, and why am I being asked to keep them a secret? Would we get in trouble if a college administrator or a faculty member walked by and saw us doing these things? Would I feel comfortable participating in this activity if my parents were watching? Ask yourself if you would do any of these things to your own self or your own sibling. If the answer is no, then why are you doing them to someone else? Would you ask yourself to put bottle caps on your elbows and put yourself in the plank position for 3 or 4 minutes? Would you lock yourself in a closet full of liquor and a trash can and make yourself throw up in that trash can until it's full before you let yourself out? Would you put a ski mask over your face and go into a convenience store to steal a pack of gum and a bag of Cheetos before you can come out? I don't think any of you are answering yes to any of these questions. Some manners and types of hazing: mental abuse, physical and psychological battery, mind games, physical abuse, paddling, fight night, financial extortion, sleep deprivation, binge drinking, forced or coerced alcohol or drug consumption, forced or coerced ingestion of vile substances or concoctions, expecting new members or to perform personal services for other members, such as carrying books, running errands, buying them cigarettes, carrying tobacco, cooking or cleaning up their apartments. All these things are considered hazing, and they all lead to more and more.
So, some of the physical and psychological effects of hazing. Hazing is often about power and control. You do whatever it takes to prove your loyalty and commitment. It's more than just peer pressure. It can involve bullying. And hazing is essentially being under duress, which is why a victim's agreement to participate cannot be used as a defense. Hazing does not build unity and should not be considered a tradition. A tradition, as in a rite of passage, because it happened to you and now it's your turn to torture the next group? No. Hazing can be a cycle of abuse where the abused later becomes the abuser. Hazing is everyone's problem and therefore everyone's responsibility. Everyone is responsible. It reflects on the group as a whole, so it's up to each of you to stop it. Hazing happens every day, but we only hear about it when someone dies. And hazing is against the law. The hazing law varies from state to state, but whether it's a misdemeanor and/or a felony, it can carry significant fines, jail time, and will be on your record, especially your internet searchable record. Hazing can cause physical trauma. There are numerous cases of traumatic brain injuries due to beatings, falls, or alcohol poisoning due to forced drinking. Hazing can be exposed when a victim is hospitalized. Also, you aren't taking a medical history to find out about conditions or medications that they're on that could be exacerbated by hazing before you haze somebody. Hazing also causes psychological trauma. The negative effects of hazing can be long-lasting. This kind of trauma is not usually reported. It can include depression, suicide, poor grades, withdrawal from activities, and shame. You don't know if something in someone's life makes them highly susceptible to serious repercussions if they're hazed. Hazing can have long-term damaging effects to a person's well-being in their future. You may not be able to hold down a job. Your memory may have suffered. You may have developed addictions. And hazing can kill.
As Evelyn said, hazing is against the law in just about every state. You're guilty of hazing even as a bystander, watching someone else haze. The laws act as a deterrent, but they're only as good as the education that we get out about them, and as well as they're policed. We had some talks with the police that are in the room tonight, and I can tell you that they're very vested in creating a lot of change on this campus. Hazing is a felony in 11 states, the 11th state being a neighboring state of yours, Louisiana, due to some work that we've done there, the Max Gruver Act, and soon to become a felony in the state of Pennsylvania. We're working with the NIC and the MPC to create model legislation nationally to create change. Currently in the state of Mississippi, hazing is a misdemeanor with fines of up to $2,000 and 6 months in jail. We will work hard to change that legislation and have a felony as well in the state of Mississippi. And I think everyone knows that a felony, and we talked about this, will stay with you for the rest of your life. I interview a lot of people, a lot of young adults coming out of college, and we do background checks on everyone. If you have a criminal record, it's a very competitive world out there. You're not going to make the cut. Again, with education, we need to talk about these laws, and this is a very important law for us, and as it should be for you. It's the medical amnesty law, and it's also sometimes called a Good Samaritan law. The law provides for limited immunity for underage individuals who seek assistance or help from law enforcement or emergency services in response to drug or alcohol-related incidences. You can call 911 without repercussion from law. Your own university has mirrored this law, and so on your campus, under medical amnesty, a student or student organization who seeks emergency assistance on behalf of him or herself, another community member, or a friend experiencing an alcohol or drug-related emergency will not be subject to disciplinary action under the University Code of Conduct. If you see someone in distress or need of medical assistance, please call 911. You have a blue light system on campus. Go to the blue light system. Notify someone. Please seek assistance. It takes too much time sometimes when people are you're thinking about what to do. Do it right away. You could easily be saving a life. If they would have called 911 when they first noticed Max in distress, Max would be with us today. There's many leaders in this room, and there's many of you that aspire to be leaders. And leadership is not a position or a title. It's an action, an example. And we challenge you to take the action and become leaders and do the right thing when it comes to these laws so that we can save lives. There have been 40 hazing-related deaths since 2009. Hazing, as we said, is often done by the previous year's members. The hazed become the hazers. It seems to be escalating, and a lot of it has to do with the internet. We talked about this earlier today with an app called Old Row. And it's all about one-upmanship. So social media has made this world a lot smaller. You're seeing pictures and that may not even be true pictures. And a lot of young adults are trying to outdo somebody else with these ridiculous acts of hazing. There's been a significant upswing in the amount of deaths since 2005 last year, and over 80% of these deaths involve alcohol. Here you can see the deaths involving alcohol. If a person is unresponsive, get help. Has anybody ever heard of backpacking? Oftentimes, people will put a backpack on someone's back who's had too much to drink and they believe it's going to save their life. I can tell you, if you're putting a backpack on someone, you need to be calling 911. If you feel like you need to check somebody's pulse to make sure they're okay, what happens when you don't feel that pulse? It's too late. Please call 911. If you see someone with labor breathing or they're in distress, please call 911. There's a certain level of intoxication. We talked about 0.31. If you get to a 0.40, you're going to die if you don't have immediate medical assistance. It's a level that you will die. Alcohol can and will kill you. With Max, 4 men were indicted with criminal hazing, 1 with negligent homicide, which is a felony. In 2013, Michael Dang, 4 were convicted. 2013 with Gary Bogenberger, 21 were convicted. Alcohol is often used, but with Marquise Bram, we know the family very well. Marquise took his own life because the hazing that he went through, he couldn't stand to do that to another individual. And he knew if he went back to school, he would be forced, because the fraternity had ways to force him to do that hazing. And he took his own life. Robert Champion was beaten to death. He was a band member, and there were convictions of manslaughter and hazing at Florida A&M. Matthew Carrington was forced to do push-ups in raw sewage in a dank basement and made to drink gallons of water. He died from water intoxication. Our goal is that we don't add any more names to this list. You guys all worked hard to get into this university. You're working very hard now to receive that coveted degree. Don't let somebody else's bad decision or one single bad decision in your life take that away from you for the rest of your lives. Max was an avid sports enthusiast. He was a writer. He loved basketball. Do you guys, you know who John Wooden is? Have you ever heard of him? Anyone? He was UCLA, 10 NCAA championships in 12 years. John once said, "The true test of a man's character is what you do when no one is watching." We need your help to educate your peers and self-police the hazing laws, to report hazing and end hazing effectively on this campus. We need you to watch out for each other and do the right things when no one's watching. Let the law empower you to stop hazing immediately when you see it happening. If you see something, say something. You may be saving a life.
So the aftermath of hazing. We have a new normal, and our new normal sucks. We are without our sons. Mother's Day and Father's Day, we each spend at the cemetery. Holidays, Thanksgiving, what are we giving thanks for? We're not whole. Somebody's missing. Christmas? Christmas is awful. Tim loved Christmas. He was like a big kid at Christmas. And now we can't even stand to be in our own house because it's just too sad. And I know you guys can't either. Birthdays, graduation, weddings, we miss out on all of that. Tim's 21st birthday was September 25th. His 21st birthday. He never even got to see 21. And all the traditions that you have as a family, they just don't mean as much anymore. Like we do the big Italian Christmas Eve thing. My heart's not in it. I have to do it for everyone else, but I'm miserable. And then the lives impacted, it's not just family, friends, a girlfriend, but it's your life. If you're the hazer, it's your life that's impacted. Your parents' lives, because now they've had to hire attorneys. And every time, like last summer, we were in court 8 times for preliminary hearings, and we've been back in court for more preliminary hearings since. So just last summer, that was 8 times that the defendants had to come with their attorneys and their attorneys' other attorneys, and you had to get a hotel room, and some of you had to get flights, and it is very expensive. So you're ruining your future job potential, and your parents' future because you're kind of bankrupting their retirement. I want you to put yourself back in our shoes to see the aftermath of a hazing death. So because of hazing, life is on an alternate course. This is not the way it was supposed to be. You are now an only child. Your children won't have cousins on your side of the family. All the things that you were supposed to share together, holidays, vacations, tailgates at your alma mater, won't be happening. You lost your best friend, your confidant, your workout buddy. His girlfriend lost her future husband, their future kids, and the future life that they were planning and looking forward to down the line. Friends lost the best man at their wedding, one of the greatest people they ever knew, the guy who could make them laugh no matter what. Parents lost half of their world and their greatest joy in life. Half of their heart is gone, and they feel that pain in their chest and in their soul every day. You wake up and think, he's not here. And you go to sleep thinking, he's not here. Little things can send any one of you into a tailspin. Hearing a song on the radio, hearing his ringtone on someone else's phone, going to his favorite restaurant, playing a board game that he made way more fun than it really was, or just telling stories and remembering him. The destruction is far-reaching and forever. Hazing is unfortunately powerful and vicious. Before you haze, put yourself in this place and remember how much it hurts to have someone damaged or gone from your life. Don't be the person who does this to someone and destroys their family and friends, as well as your own future and that of your parents. And in the back of your mind, consider that one day you might have kids. Would you want this to happen to your baby, your child? Consider the consequences. Don't think it won't happen, because it does. It did. And it will hurt so many people with the greatest pain imaginable. You are very loved. You may not hear it very often, but know that you are very loved. Your absence from people's lives would be devastating to them. Now remember, the person next to you is just as loved by their family and friends, who would be crippled by their loss. Please listen to us and don't haze. Remember this. So, what can you do? Be a leader. Leadership is not about bullying or forcing someone into submission. A leader wants people to follow them, and a leader takes care of the people that follow them. Follow your values. Say no to hazing. Make a pact. Walk away. If it doesn't feel right or look right, it probably isn't right. Just because it happened to you doesn't make it right. If you see an incidence of hazing or hear about it, report it. And you can always call 188-NOT-HAZE. If someone is in immediate danger or showing signs of distress, please call 911. Don't be a bystander. Don't think somebody else will do it and that somebody's got it covered. Don't backpack. And promote safe recruitment, pledging, and membership in any organization. Taking action takes courage and is not always the easy and most popular thing to do. Speaking up may not be the easy choice, but it will be the right choice and may save a life. In Max's case, witnesses noted the hazing was getting out of control, but they did not stop it. In Tim's case, a fraternity brother also recognized that Tim was in danger and that someone should get help. In both cases, valid concerns about Tim and Max were ignored, overruled by the hazers who were leading the hazing activities. So, let me reiterate, speaking up will not be the easy choice, but it will be the right choice, and it may save someone's life. And saving a life will spare another family this unimaginable grief. If something doesn't look right or feel right, it probably isn't. Go with your gut, take action, get help. The tone from the top of your organization is critical. You must set the tone that hazing will not be tolerated and has no room in your organization. Hazing is unnecessary for any organization to be strong. Almost all of your organizations have an oath or creed that you all abide by. If you are living by those words, where does hazing fit in? The fact is, it does not. Hazing has no place if you live by your creed. And so we challenge you. What can you do to change the culture? How can you encourage true brotherhood? What can you do instead of hazing? What can take the place of hazing? Talk to your other organizations. Find out who is successful and fill in those blanks from hazing. How can you be leaders and make your chapter an example to all other organizations on campus? How can you all work together as a campus community to make hazing end?
I think all of you recognize this slide. We think it is a very powerful message your university and administrators are really trying to get across to you. I want you to really think about these things as you create change here at Ole Miss. It will take all of you to make it happen, from your administration, to your student leaders, to your individual chapters, right down to the individuals in it, right down to you. Care enough to educate yourself and your members on what is right and what is wrong. Care enough to make sure those around you are making safe decisions. Care enough to remove others from harm's way. Care enough about others that you don't have to demean them or demoralize them or ridicule them. Care enough to report when someone else is not caring. Care enough to live the values you committed to in your organization and here at your university. Be proud of your university and your organizations. I'm going to close tonight with something we found in one of Max's journals the night before we buried him. It was from a paper he wrote on blessings when he was 16 years old, and the last paragraph ended with this: God works in funny ways. He does bad things sometimes because in the end they are good. Something bad can happen to you, but it may happen because it will make you better. He does bad to ultimately create good. Our boys were no different than any of you all. They went away to college, and they wanted to find a home away from their home. They wanted a brother when they couldn't be with their own brother. They wanted a family when they couldn't be with theirs. They wanted to feel safe. So please take these words from Max, take them back to your organizations and across your campus, and put an end to hazing. Hazing has no place on your campus. Make something good out of something so bad that has happened to us. Make change happen. Thank you for your time today. Steve, Evelyn, and I wish all of you much success in this world. You have so much to look forward to. Please stay true to yourself and to your values. And please, please, keep each other safe. Thank you very much.
By the table.
So once again, we'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Gruver and Mrs. Piazza for their powerful message this evening. I speak for us all when I say that their message has truly resonated throughout our campus community. And so we're going to open up our question and answer period this evening with some questions that your peers sent in, but also want to make light and note that we have counselors from the University Counseling Center that are stationed close to each exit should you need to utilize them. And so I will allow our student moderator to introduce herself.
Good evening, my name is Brittany Brown and I'm a senior journalism major here at the University of Mississippi. I'm from Quitman, Mississippi, and I am a member of the Theta Psi chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
And I'm Arthur Doctor, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Fraternal Leadership and Learning here at the University of Mississippi. And so with that, we'll open with our first question for you all. What advice would you give to someone trying to make a change in their chapter or organization?
I guess, find other like-minded individuals and band together and be confident in yourself and in your beliefs and in what is right. And maybe even walk away if it's a losing proposition. If people aren't going to budge, then it's not worth you being a part of.
Yeah, to create that change, you need to understand what you want to change first, right? So if it's hazing, you first have to admit that the issue exists, and then attack it head on. Understand, like we talked in our presentation, that most of you, the fraternities and sororities at least, have creeds, and if you live by your creed, hazing can't exist within that parameter. So use that and use the law to help create that change in your community.
And second question, what do you say to those who say our chapter has never had issues with hazing, alcohol, etc.? Why is this our battle?
Just because, and we know not every organization hazes, but it's your community and it is your problem. Because if you know others are hazing, and if something goes wrong or something goes rogue in another organization, chapter, whatever, it takes all of you down. It takes the whole community down. It's disrespectful to your entire university. So you have one rogue chapter that's hazing, and they get in trouble for it, or somebody dies, God forbid, your whole Greek life goes down. Your whole Greek life's over. And I don't think any of you want that to happen. You have to help self-police each other and keep each other on the straight with it. You guys don't need to haze each other. That is not the way to join an organization.
We're going to take a pause to also note that there are mics stationed on either corner of the concourses where you all may step to ask questions as we continue on. So the third question, and you alluded to this about the values and what's next in fraternity and sorority life nationally. What do you all feel is the direction that Greek life is headed nationally, and how can we be proactive?
Well, we are partnering. We and other families are partnering with the NIC and the NPC, and they are taking this seriously. They are planning right now for model legislation that we as a group will shop around from state to state, making hazing a felony and creating other aspects like transparency and organizational hazing and things like that. And we also plan on developing, or they plan on developing, education and having fraternity and sorority members go out to high schools to educate as part of philanthropy. And
we don't need to sit up here and we want Greek life to end, because Greek life's going to end on its own if the rise keeps happening the way it's happening, like in those charts Steve was showing you all. It's only escalating, and things are only getting more severe. And really, from the nationals down, it just goes, insurance companies aren't going to cover the nationals, which is covering your chapters, and Greek life will end because of all of that. You guys will, unfortunately, you can ruin yourselves with this. And I was Greek. I was an 80 Pi at Clemson. Go Tigers. Go Tigers. I was an 80 Pi at Clemson, and I loved Greek life. We didn't haze. I had a wonderful time. Greek life brings a lot to your college experience. It does. I absolutely 100% believe that. But hazing only takes away from it. And you're only hurting each other with it. Nobody who really likes to be hazed. Every alumni I've met that's been hazed, all they have told me is, you don't remember 80% of the people you went to college with 20 years from now. But you know whose name you do remember? The guy that hazed you, or the girl that hazed you, that made you feel so terrible about yourself. That's the name you remember. Is that really the name you want to remember 25 years from now and still have all that resentment towards them? That's something to think about, because that's what a lot of you are doing to each other when you do some of these activities. I just don't think anyone wants that.
So what do I tell people who say we will never change?
Well, like Rayanne said, then you'll take yourselves down, because we're not going away. We're going to keep things in the forefront, and other parents are going to keep this in the forefront. And now that we're partnering with the NIC, we're watching, and we're not going away.
And laws are changing quickly. They're changing really fast in several states. We're working in Georgia right now. They're working in Texas right now too. It's all coming, and it's going to happen. So you really do have to think about that. Do you want to go down for a felony because you were involved in a hazing incident? It's not, I don't think it's anything any of you came to college to do, is to go to jail or be expelled from school and, have to be doing the things that we're doing right now.
So this is a question that came from students, as we said. What do we do if new members are asking to be hazed, and how do we combat that?
You tell them we have zero tolerance for hazing. If you want to be hazed, you don't belong in our organization, because we do not haze. You just have to stick to it.
How do I get others to care? How do I get to inspire others about this issue?
Well, use our examples. You cannot imagine how painful it is to lose a child, lose your brother or your sister, lose your boyfriend. It happens, and it is devastating, truly devastating. If I thought my life was ever bad before, that was a joke. My life was great. I would love to have that back, but life is, it sucks. It sucks to be without my son. So just don't even take that risk. Don't put anybody in that position. It's Russian roulette. You don't know whether something can go bad or not. And chances are, if you have involved alcohol in it, judgment is off, and you're not thinking straight, and then you're going to panic, and it's just going to be bad. So don't even put yourself in that position.
What are ways that you've seen, you've had the opportunity to visit other campuses and other high schools and middle schools? What are ways that you're seeing people across the country work to combat hazing?
So they're doing a whole lot with education. You know, understanding the definition of hazing, understanding what it is, understanding what the laws are, and you know, understanding that you need to live an ethical life, and just accepting that if you have an individual that's going to act like that in your organization, you know, you're making relationships here today and through the rest of your college life that will be with you the rest of your lives. Do you want that individual, you know, with you that is the hazer? And I think most people say that it's, you know, the few that are doing the hazing, and a lot of people we've talked to have said, well, we don't want them as part of our organization. So you need to create a change.
And we do want to remind the audience that there are microphones open on both sides of the stage if anybody does have a question in the audience. But how can we encourage more individuals to report hazing and other risky behaviors?
Well, you guys have, I mean, you do have anonymous reporting, and to get the change going and get the change moving, you guys do need to start. Your administrators, they want to know, and it's not because they want you to be in trouble. They want you to be safe is what they want. They don't want, Ole Miss does not want a death on their hands like what's going on at the universities our sons went to. Nobody wants that. You guys need to be proactive in this. Your administration is being proactive in this. They are trying to educate you guys on this. They just want you guys to be safe. We just want you guys to be safe. But be proactive and not reactive. You know, if you see something, you've got to say something about it. I know you guys launched, they're having you guys use that Live Safe app. You guys can anonymously report on that. And then it's going to get your administrators out there to just investigate and see what's going on and make sure, you know, things aren't getting out of hand and things aren't going awry. So you got to keep you guys got to keep each other safe. Do you really, I mean, do you want to have somebody in your community die over something so senselessly as a hazing incident like what happened to our boys? I mean, I don't think any of you do. And it really, really is Russian roulette, because you really don't know how far somebody's going to take it. And when you see somebody going that direction, you've got to stop it. And you got to self-police each other too.
So seeing no students at the mic, we'll go into our final question. What would be your final charge to those represented here tonight, those organizations, those chapters, those community constituents that we talked about earlier today? What would be your final charge to those students and individuals, but also those watching online tonight?
So we really need everyone in this room to, A, understand our message. We want to end hazing. We need you to get out in your community and spread the word and create the change. We have a very small, even though this is a big room, there's a lot of people in here. It's a very small sample. Even imagine with the folks that are watching us on the television, represented from this university. So we implore you, we need your help. We need you to get out there. We need you to talk to each other. We need you to understand that it's not part of your ethics to haze, and why not to haze. Save a life, and we need your help to get out. And also we talked about, you know, I saw so many hands go up with, hey, I have siblings that are real close to me. Talk to your younger siblings. Hazing starts before college. It starts in high school. We need to get this message down to the high school years as well. So if you have siblings, or if you can get out in your community and talk to some of your high schools, the answers come from within this room, and you can create the change, and we need you to do that.
I think there's a couple of things, but it's really you guys working together. I mean, I know you all have separate organizations, separate chapters, but it's you guys together as a community that's going to make the change happen. And you guys, you know, you have to hold each other accountable within your organization, and then the organization right next to you and down the street from you and across the street from you. Work with your administrators. They want to help you. They want to help you guys make this change happen. I think a big thing you guys need to think about too is, I can only imagine, I mean, for as much pain as we're in, and the boys that were involved in the hazing with our sons, they have to live with that the rest of their lives. And even the ones that were the bystanders that didn't do enough to stop it. Do you want that on your conscience? I would really think about that. I mean, that's over your head every single day you wake up in the morning. I don't have my son and I have to think about that, but you have to think about how you might have been involved in someone's death. So I just think that's something you need to take home with you also and just really think about. And think about it the next time you see something going on that you know is probably not right, and something could go really wrong with it.
And be strong in your convictions. Talk to your parents. And I know there are a lot of parents who probably, you know, parents and alumni who think hazing was back like in their day. And this is not goldfish and togas and streaking anymore. This is dangerous. So, you know, they need to know what's really going on and how dangerous it really is. And you need to have those conversations with them and just understand, or have them understand that you're not going to stand for it. You're not on your watch. There will not be hazing on your watch.
So we want to thank you for taking an extra bit of time to answer these questions for us, and I believe that we have a message from our IFC president to close us out this evening.
Good evening. I am Bennett Wilfong, and this year I serve as the Interfraternity Council President. I would like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Gruver for being here, and Ms. Piazza. Thank you for your powerful message tonight. I hope that this discussion has been empowering, that you're courageous enough to be intentional with your actions. Tonight I urge each person to recommit to the values of your fraternity and to the creed of this university. Simply put, we need everyone to care. Care enough to educate yourself on what is right and wrong. Care enough to make sure that those around you are making safe decisions. Care enough to remove others from harm's way. Care enough about others that you don't have to belittle them. Care enough to report when someone else is not caring, and care enough to live the values you committed to when you joined the Ole Miss family. As we close tonight's event, we hope that you will take the message from tonight and begin doing your part to make this change, to change the culture for the better. Because families care for one another, and families matter. Have a great evening.